Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis, the Mishnah at the top of the Amud. The Mishnah continues on with the Seder of the Hazol Saddam of the Par and the Sawyer. Like the Mishnah V'yotz El HaMizbech Asher Lifnei Hashem, after he does the Hazois towards the Paroiches, it says that he goes out to the Mizbech that is before Hashem. Which Mizbech are referring to? Ze Mizbach Hazor. That's the golden Mizbech, the Mizbech HaPnimi, the Mizbech that's in the Heichal. Hiskol Machat V'Yared, the Kohen Gadol starts to take from the blood, and he takes from the mixed blood, he takes it with his finger, and he now applies it to the corners of the Mizbeach. He applies it to the corner, and he's Machat V'Yared. He goes downward. He starts from the top and goes down. And he does this on each of the corners of the Mizbeach. Mehechen hu maschil, from which of the corners did he start? Mekeren Mizrach Tzfainis. So our Tana says that he begins from the northeast corner. Now we'll see in the Gemara, there's a machlokes tanoim regarding this, and we'll see what the reasoning is, why he starts from that corner according to our Tana. So he starts from the Keren Mizrach Tzfainis, and then the order that he goes, he circles around the Mizbeach, and he goes from there to the Tzfainis Ma'aravis, to the northwest, Ma'aravis Draimis, west, southwest, and Draimis Mizrachis, and he ends off on the southeast. So he goes all around the Mizbeach in that order. Makam Shehu Maschal B'Chatas Al Mizbeach HaChitzon, the place where he starts on the Chatas on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, that corner where he, on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, where he begins, Misham HaYagayim Al Mizbeach HaPnimi, that's where he ends on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. The Mizbeach HaChitzon also had corners. Both Mizbeachos had corners. Now in the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the ramp was to the south. The ramp was on the south side of the Heichal. So when the Kohen came up the ramp to the Mizbeach, now as we learn in the Gemara, the Pina is called Pina Shata Pina Lo Yel El Min. He makes a right turn. So if he's making a right turn, then he's on the south side, and makes a right turn, he's on the east. So where he begins to make the application of the dam on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, he starts on the southeast, and then he goes around the Mizbeach. That corner where he starts on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the southeast, that's where he ends off over here on the Mizbeach HaPnimi with the application of the dam on the Mizbeach HaZav on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. He ends off on, the last one is, he ends off on the southeast. Rabbi Eliezer says, he says, no, it was done differently. The Kohen Gadol did not circle the Mizbeach. He stood in his place, and he reached over and applied the dam to the corners. The Mizbeach HaPnimi was only an Amar by Amma. He didn't have to circle around. He could reach over and do it, and that's the way he did it. Now, since he could reach over and do it, therefore, the way he did the application of the dam, he argues, and he says it's different than the Tanakama. He says, V'al kulam hayanaisen milmata lamala. On all of the corners, he applied the dam from the bottom up, not from top down, but from the bottom and going up. Chutz mizu shahai salafanav, except for the corner that was right in front of him, shaynaisen milmala lemata. There he agrees he did it from top down. Now, why does he say he does it top down? Because in the corner that's in front of him, if he does it from bottom up, then we're afraid as he raises his hand, the blood will drip down and stain his garment and stain his beged, the beged is not allowed to have a stain. So therefore, the corner that's in front of him, he could not do it that way. There he did it from top down, so it didn't drip down. It didn't drip into his beged. But on the other corners where he's reaching over, it's not in front of him. When he reaches over, there's no concern. It's not going to drip down his arm because his arm is extended. So therefore, he did it on kulam hayanoisen milmata lemala. Now, according to the Tanakama, since he says he circles around the Mizbeach, all the corners are in front of him, and therefore in all of the corners, he had to do it milmala lemata. Then after he applies the blood to the corners, then he sprinkles it on the base of the surface of the Mizbeach, the cleared surface of the Mizbeach 7 times. And the remnants of the blood, the remainder of the blood, What did he do with it? He came out of the Heichal. He encountered the Mizbeach HaChitzon. The first base that he encounters over there is the western base. That is the Mizbeach, the Azora is situated from east to west. So he encounters the Yesod Ma'aravi. That's where he pours the remnants of the blood. Visham Mizbeach HaChitzon, now the remnants of the blood, the Shoradam of what's the Hakrava, the Korbanos on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, HaYeshayfech HaYesod Droimi. He would pour it on the southern base. He would pour it on the southern base of the Mizbeach HaChitzon. That's where they would be poured. And we'll see in the Gemara, we'll discuss the particulars of that and why this is so. Then Elo ve'elo, then the blood, both of these bloods would be misarvim ba'ama, would get mixed together in the canal, the drainage canal that was there in the Azara, the Yitzim Nachal Kidron, and they flowed out to Nachal Kidron. Vinim karm le'gananim le'zevel, and they would sell that blood for the gardeners to use for fertilizer. Now, if they didn't sell it, there would be a din me'ila. We'll see in the Gemara, there's a din me'ila d'Rabbanan, but there would be a din me'ila, and therefore they would have to sell it to them in order to make it permitted for use. Tana Rabbanan, Zok the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, v'yatzal Mizbeach. It says that the Kohen Gadol goes out to the Mizbeach. It says v'yatza. The pasuk says v'yatza el Mizbeach asher lifnei Hashem v'chipar alav l'kach midam apar midam asor v'nas halakar Mizbeach saviv. So it says v'yatza that he goes out. Ma tamad loimer. Why does it have to say v'yatza that he goes out? Just say that he applies it to the Mizbeach. Rabbi Nechemia says, because we have another case of a chatas apnimi, which also has hazos adam that are done in the heichal. But the Seder Avodah is different than the Para Yomi Kippur. We have the Para Bar called Mitzvahs, the Para that the Kohen Gadol brings. If he makes a mistake in Hayro and Psak, and he does an Aver B'Shaygeg on where B'Mezid, the Rabbi Koreas, he brings this special Para. And there's also Hazos. Now we find over there in that case, that where he's positioned the kohen, he also sprinkles keneged the parechas, but he's not standing between the mizbeach and the parechas. He's not standing closer to the parech. He stands on the outer side of the mizbeach. So the mizbeach is between him and the parechas. On Yom Kippur, the kohen gadol, he does the hazos. He's standing between the mizbeach and the parechas. He's standing beyond the mizbeach. On the par of har kol mitzvahs, he's standing east of the Mizbeach. So when he's doing the Hazos, the Mizbeach is between him and the Parechas. So therefore, since we find over there, Shekayin Aymed Chutz Mizbeach Mazal Parechas B'Shoshu Mazeh Yachal Avzekain. You might think that by Yom Kippur it's the same. He's positioned in the same way. Talmud Leimer V'Yotzel Mizbeach. He has to go out to the Mizbeach. Hechanaya. Now where was he? Where was he that he has to go out? And then we know he doesn't go out of the Heichal, so Lifnim min Mizbeach. He was, therefore, west of the Mizbeach. He was in the area between the Mizbeach and the Parechas, and now he goes out, and he goes past that, he goes past the Mizbeach. So then we see that the Hazos of the Yom Kippur that are done by the Parechas, by Yom Kippur, the kohen is standing between the Mizbeach and the Parechas where he does the Hazos. And therefore, when he does the Hazos on the Mizbeach, it's V'yotza. He has to go to the east. By the Parabah called Mitzvahs, the kohen is standing east of the Mizbeach. He's standing past the Mizbeach, and he does the Hazos, connected the Parechas. The Mizbeach is between him and the Parechas. Tanyidach, it was taught in another Baraisa Lifnei Hashem. The pasuk says, L'gabe the Parabah called Mitzvahs, it says, V'nosan ha'koyin min adam ha'karnes mizbach ha'keteres hasamim Lifnei Hashem asher bo'el moed. So it stresses it that the Mizbeach is Lifnei Hashem. So Mount Talmud Leimer, what is it coming to teach me over here with the Mizbeach is Lifnei Hashem? I know where the Mizbeach is. Why does it stress Lifnei Hashem? Amar Rabbi Nechemya, Lefi Shematzinu B'Parvus Hashem Kippurim, because we found by the Parvus Yom Kippurim, Shekayin Aymed Lifnei Min HaMizbeach Umaza Ala Paraychus B'Shashu Maza. That by Yom Kippur, where the Kain is standing, he's standing west of the Mizbeach, he's standing between the Mizbeach and the Paraychus, and he does the Hazaz where he's past the Mizbeach. Yachal Avzeh, you might think that the Parapah called Mitzvahs is the same thing. Talmud Leimar, Mizbeach Keteiros, Hasamim, Lifnei Hashem, Asher Bo'el Moed. So it says that the Mizbeach is Lifnei Hashem. It stresses that the Mizbeach is Mizbeach Lifnei Hashem. The Mizbeach is Levabein Kain Lifnei Hashem, but not the Kain. Okay, so the Kain goes past the Mizbeach. He's east of the Mizbeach, he does Hazos, so he's standing east of the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach is between him and the Paraychus. The Mizbeach is Lifnei Hashem, but he's not Lifnei Hashem. So the Mishnah said that his and he applies the dam on the four corners. So what is the order that he does it? He starts to apply the blood to the corners. From which corner did he start? He starts from the southeast corner. And then he goes, in the order that he goes, southeast, Droimes Ma'arovis, and then he goes the Droimes Ma'arovis. He goes to his left. He goes to his left, and he goes from the southeast. So he's starting on the southeast. He turns to his left, and then he goes the southwest, and then he continues along, and he goes northwest, and he ends up northeast. So that's how he did it. He did it. The Mikeren Mizrachi is Mechai Maschil, Mikeren Mizrachi is Droimes, the south. East he starts, then Droimes Maravis goes southwest. Maravis finest Mizrach is Divrei Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Yossi Galilei he says no. Mikeren Mizrach is finest. He starts from Mizrach's finest, from the Mizrachi's finest, from the northeast. The northeast is where he starts, and then he goes Droimes, and then he goes from there. Maravis Droimes. Then he goes west-southwest. So he is, according to Rabbi Yossi Galilei, he's now going to his right. He's turning around to his right. He starts on the northeast. He makes a right turn, and he goes to now the northwest. And he continues along, and he goes to the south, that he goes to the southwest. And he ends off on the southeast. So he goes in that order. So he starts on the Svinus, he starts on Mikeren Mizrach Svinus, the southeast, Svinus Ma'aravis, then northwest, Ma'aravis, Droimes, Mizrach, southeast. The Malcolm Rabbi Yossi Galilei Maschil, the place where Rabbi Yossi Galilei he starts, Sham Rabbi Kiva Paisek, that's where Rabbi Kiva ends. Malkim Rabbi Kiva Maschil, the where Rabbi Kiva Maschil, where he starts, that is on the southeast. Sham Rabbi Yossi Galilei Paisek, that's where he stops. So the more analyze it, the Kuli Almami, everyone agrees about Karen the Pagabaresha Loyovit. He does not do it. Doesn't apply the blood to the first corner that he encounters. Now, what does he encounter when he comes out? He's coming from the Paraychus. He's coming from west to east. So the first corner that he should encounter would be on the westerly corners of the Mizbeach. He's coming from west to east. Right? The Kodesh Kadoshim, the Parechas, that's west, further west. He's coming out to the east. So the edge of the Mizbeach that he encounters, the corners that he encounters, should be on the westerly side, the western corner. He doesn't do it on it. Both agree that when he starts on the east, not on the west. He starts on the east and not on the west. So, My time, Amr Shmuel, Damar Kraviyot El Mizbeach. It says he goes out to the Mizbeach. Adenafik Mikol Mizbeach. So he has to go past. He's applying it to the pareches. He has to leave that area. He has to pass the whole Mizbeach. And now he starts to do the Hazos. So he's now starting on the east side of the Mizbeach, not the west side. So the Rekiva Nakiv Derech Yamin. Now, he's on the east side. So he's on the east side of the Mizbeach. Now, according to Rav Yossi Aglili, we understand he's on the east side of the Mizbeach. Now, he's facing the Mizbeach. He does the Hazos. Well, he turns to his right. So the first corner he encounters would be the northeast, and then he goes to the west, northwest, and he follows along. We understand Rabbi Yossi Aglili because you turn to the right. According to Rabbi Akiva, he's facing the Mizbeach. He's on the east side and he's facing the Mizbeach, but he's turning to the left. He goes and he does the first corner that he does is the southeast and the southwest and then to the north. Why does he do it in that order? So, Rabbi Akiva, not the Derech Yamin. Let's say that they argue on this din of Rami Baruch Heskel, who says that whenever you turn in the base of Megillah, when you turn to your right. The Omar Rami Baruch Heskel Yam Shasa Shleima Melch made a basin. It made a pool of water. There was a basin, and it was supported by statues of Purim. And so the way it lists is as follows. The Yam Shasa Shleima Ayman al Shnei Maser Bakar. It stood on 12 oxen. Shleisha Painim Safina. So it rested on groups of 3. There was groups of 3, so there were 4 groups of 3. There was 12 in total, and that supported this basin, this large basin of water. Now, the way it lists is as follows. Shleisha Painim Safina, 3 were turned to the north, Shleisha Painim Yoma, and then to the west. So it says now, so the way it lists it is the north, and then goes to the west. So that means you're turning right. It lists it Painim Yoma, Shleisha Painim Negba, then to the south, and Shleisha Painim Mizracha. So it lists it, if you're facing it, it's turning to the right. So it starts off to the north, and it goes to the west, it goes to the south, and to the east. It's turning right. Mala, and the basin is on top of it, on top of the support of these 12 bakar, and the backs of them, and the backs were turned inward. The backs of the bakar were facing in, their heads were facing out, and the back part of it was facing in underneath the basin, and that's what supported it. So it lists it in an order of going to the right. So therefore he says, Halamarata, you learn out from here, and therefore you learn over here that whenever you turn, it says it in this order, you make a turn, you turn facing to the east. So, for instance, therefore, as we said before, when the kohen comes up the kevish, the ramp to the Mizbeach Achitzain, he goes up the ramp, he makes a right turn, and therefore, the first corner that he encounters is the southeast. The ramp is in the south. The Mizbeach is situated here from east to west. He goes up the ramp, he makes a right turn, so therefore the first corner he encounters, and that would be on the southeast. So therefore we learn out from here that all the turns, when you make a turn, you do it to the east. Rashi says it's not relevant really to say the derech Yamin al-Mizrach. It happens to be that in the case of the kevesh, it is to the Mizrach. If you're going up the ramp to the south, you're making a right turn, you come to the east, the southeast. But the point is that in that case it happens to be Mizrach, but the point is you always make a right turn. So let us say Mar Isle the Ram Yecheskel. Let us say as follows: that Mar Rav Yossi Galili holds Ram Yecheskel. You have to make a right turn, and therefore he's on the east side of the Mizbeach. He makes a right turn. So the first corner that he encounters would be on the northeast, and he follows along, to his right, and then he starts northeast, and then he goes to the northwest, etc. And that's what Rabbi Yosef Glili holds. And Mar Leslie, the Rabbi Yecheskel, and Rabbi Akiva does not hold to that, and therefore he said you go to the left, you go the other way around. Where it says like, no, you can't say that. You can't make that deal. Maybe I'll tell you the Kuli Alma Islu, the Rabbi Yecheskel. Maybe I'll tell you that everyone holds the Rabbi Yecheskel, and you do have to make a right turn. V'hacha miflagi. What's the machlekes? Mar Savi Alfina Pnim Mechutz. Rabbi Yosef says, we do see that that's the case b'chutz. We see that that's the case that outside the heichal that you make a right turn. We do see that from the Yom Shel Shleima. And that is a din by the Mizbeach HaChitza. And he says, therefore, you see it by chutz, you apply it to Pnim, and you apply it to the Mizbeach HaPnimi. You apply it inside the heichal as well. Umar Sabra lo yalfin pnim mechutz. And Rabbi Akiva says you don't learn out pnim from chutz. Yes, that's the case by the Mizbeach HaChitza, and yes, that's the case in the avodas that are in the Azora, you make a right turn. But you don't learn out from that to pnim to the Heichal, you don't learn out from that to the Mizbeach HaZav, and in the Mizbeach HaZav, you do not have to make a right turn. So it's not a requirement. Now the next question the Gemara will ask, well, perhaps it's not a requirement, but why don't you do it? Why do you dafka go to the left? We'll see in the following Amud.